Today I want to do a little update on beans, how the beans I've planted are doing. Now I've planted beans in various places. One of them here is in this greenhouse, and I planted some in some other locations. And I want to show you how they're doing in comparison to one another. Now these first beans here they're called big Kabuna beans. And these are doing very, very well. Now as you can see, if we can get this okra out of the way, there are beans already growing on here. See, I've got beans growing, and they're not ready to pick yet, but they are growing. As you look down there, you can see there's a lot of beans. See, here's another plant. Now this one's almost ready to pick, but see, they are, oh, there's another one that's almost ready to pick. But they are growing and they are producing. So that's kind of good news. Here's another one. Now these are supposed to be bush beans, as I recall. See, there's some more beans there. They're doing quite nice. And they're doing quite well. Now, not all of these. See, there's some beans that are behind a little bit. I'm not sure why that is. But that just happens. Sometimes things grow slow and they grow fast, even if you plant them at the same time. So there's the beans in here. See, here's some more. Of the ones that came up, they're doing quite nicely. So, anyway, I'll show you the rest of the beans in the other places and kind of compare how they're doing. These, I think, are doing the best of anything that I have so far. Well, that's a real time what the temperature is in here. It looks like, at least right there, it's 122 degrees, it looks like. Of course, that's Fahrenheit, but that's hot. And I've got cantaloupe growing in here, and then I've got sweet potatoes over on that side. Let's go have a look. Sweet potatoes here, and then intermixed in all that, coming up, are watermelon vines that are just growing all over the ground. And then this little center thing where the strings are, that's Asian beans. They seem to be growing quite well. And then, of course, there's corn. And then there's various potatoes. I think the vast majority of these are red potatoes. And they seem to tolerate the heat very well. They don't seem to enjoy it, but they're not dying out. You can see even the corn here is a little bit stressed because the heat's just too much for it. Now, let's see, there's a grasshopper. But see, what I'm wondering here on the beans here, these Asian beans, as you can see, there are I think these are blossoms. I'm not sure. But they're growing quite tall, and I haven't seen any beans yet. Just the vines are growing. I'm not sure why that is, but it could be the heat. Maybe I've got too much nitrogen in the soil. I don't know, but we'll let them grow. It's interesting to see that in this extreme heat, they tolerate it quite nicely. In the large greenhouse I have, as you can see, it's not terribly hot in here. Let's see if I can get focus on that so you can see. It's about 88, 87, 88 degrees, something like that. It's not terribly hot in here, whereas in the other greenhouse it was 120. So things are growing well in here. But what I want to focus today on is beans. Now, these beans were supposed to be bush beans when I planted them, but look at this. They seem to be acting like pole beans for some reason. I don't know. Now, there's another thing I've noticed that it kind of has me concerned. See how they're growing so well, but I don't see any beans coming on them yet. That's kind of interesting. I'm not sure why that is. Maybe it's just not time yet. I don't know. But see, on this side too, they're doing quite well. There's another batch of beans over there. So the same thing's happening. It looks like they have sprouts on them, flowers that want to come out, but there's no beans yet. And of course, these are still coming up. Let's go around the other side. Now, you look over here, these beans are doing quite well, growing anyway, and they're the same thing. They're kind of growing as if they're pole beans, I think. But I don't see any beans on them yet. But I see what maybe bean sprouts perhaps starting, but maybe it's just too early yet. But we'll see. And this one over here that I showed you, same thing. That's a little bit behind. I'll try to put some dates on how when I planted these. Now if you look here, here's another set that I planted a little later. They're still coming up, but they're doing quite well. And what I'm wondering is, does crowding the beans like that make them not produce beans? I don't know. Because let me show you over here why I'm wondering. Now, over here I have one dragon's tongue bean, I think is what they call it. And it's just one single plant by itself. You can see I've picked 3 or 4 beans off of this already. But this is producing beans, and it's not that tall. So, I wonder why the other one isn't. Maybe, I don't know that much about beans, but maybe crowding them kind of hurts. We'll have to see. Okay, here we're on the back porch of what I call my sun deck. Now this deck, it faces east, so it gets a lot of sunshine in the morning, and as the afternoon wears on, it slowly gets shadowy over here. But anyway, these are beans, bush beans, and as you can see, these are in a floating raft system. Let me show you what I mean. Well, as you can see here, what I've got is 2 trays. I think I've shown this before, and they're full of water, and the water circulates from here over to a hose that goes back, and it drains back out over here. Anyway, as you can see, these are just styrofoam strips with the beans in them, and these are the same kind of beans that were outside, where I was saying they're growing very thick, and they're growing kind of like pole beans, but I'm pretty sure they're bush beans. Now these are dulcima or dulcima, whatever. I can't if I didn't pronounce them right. So they're the same kind of beans that are outside there that are growing really, really well. So anyway, we can compare these. If they start producing beans and the ones out in the main greenhouse are not, then perhaps the crowding is doing something. So we'll find out something here in a little bit. I imagine about another week or so these will be tall enough that they'll probably start showing sprouts. So that's the update.